Today's guest is Immanuel Cape, who is a crypto rebel living an alternative lifestyle in Tulum, Mexico. He's the founder of Tulum Crypto Fest, Casa Amor, and his photography project called Imagine Cape. The word rebel ties its roots back to the Latin word rebellare, which translates to again, and bellare, to wage war. Historically and linguistically, the term retains a strong connotation of resistance and the act of opposing control, often with a sense of returning, to a state of conflict, bellare. It highlights the often cyclical nature of resistance movements and the perpetual struggle between opposing forces, whether they be ideas, governance, or societal norms. When someone rebels from societal norms, they're often met with resistance from the status quo. Seeing someone do a rebellious act threatens the fragile consistency around which some people have built their lives. Manu is a rebel in many ways, financially, in his relationships, and in his lifestyle. It takes courage to be a rebel and is often an uncomfortable path as one is finding their footing on it. But rebels can also inspire others to think critically and act courageously. Their example can empower others to stand up for their beliefs and challenge injustices. On this podcast, Manu and I discuss being a rebel, as well as finding the blessings in the face of humbling circumstances. And we take a deep look at the societal pressures on men around sex. And with that, please enjoy the show. You are listening to the Heart for Life podcast with Thomas Scott.
Yeah, when people see that you do a rebellious act, that you break out of the norm of the society, of what you have been taught to do, I guess there's jealousy and there's also insecurities. So if you do something different, people are conditioned to judge you for it. Whatever I do, I'm always very radical. Whatever I'm doing at the moment as well, that I really enjoy, people see it as get triggered by it because it's different. And then once maybe they take time to understand it, they realize, okay, maybe I was just conditioned by society that is not as bad as I thought. So that happens as well when people are successful, making money or coming up with some crazy idea. First is a lot of judgment. But then when you are on top again, people are going to tell the story how they met you.
Yeah.
It's always like that.
Yeah, I think it's like at the core, it comes down to feeling safe with uncertainty. And the people who are unsafe with uncertainty, the people who see a rebellion or a rebellious person or someone who's not following the norm, that has the chance to break their paradigm. And they're like, don't break my paradigm. And so they're going to actually work to hold you back, even though it's not
conscious.
It's not conscious. Yeah. I've been learning in my life, especially for the past couple of years, how to hold deep empathy for people when they're in that state, because it's very easy to give in to the trigger that they have. If someone comes at you with a trigger because they see something you're doing and want to pull you down, it's a natural response to be like, fuck you, get out of my life. But there's an even deeper level of rebellion, I believe, when we can look at somebody like that with unconditional love and see with compassion what's happening underneath, hold very firm boundaries. It's not like, stop, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that thing that's offending you. It's like, keep doing you. But at the same time, I think the more we do the kind of work that I know you and I do, the more you're able to see the layers that are under the onion there. Because I know you, I see you as a rebel in every aspect of your life. Even your Instagram handle is the Freedom Rebel. And you rebel in relationships, you rebel in business, you rebel in money. And I fucking love that about you. It's like one of the most amazing qualities about you, because you just go and you don't ask anybody for permission. And at the same time, I imagine you're confronted very frequently with the types of people that we were just talking about. And I'm curious how you navigate that as a conscious rebel.
So I've learned one thing, that nobody will save you. The only person who will really save you is you. Not even your parents will save you. And you're lucky and you will inherit something at some point, but just because of inheritance doesn't mean that you're saved.
Yeah.
So once I realized that, I told myself, if nobody's going to save you, and if it's me saving me, then I better do whatever I want, because then I will always be in integrity with who I am and with what my desires are. And at least if I die tomorrow, I can say I did what I wanted to do, because I feel that doing what you want to do gives you a certain satisfaction all the time.
Yeah.
So even though, for example, right now I'm not a millionaire and flying private jet, which I would love to, and I don't know, having the best luxury cars and whatever, if I wanted that, if I die tomorrow, believe me, I will die with a smile.
Yeah.
Because whatever I'm doing, or most of the things I'm doing because I really want to do them, and I'm enjoying the process. And that's for me the driving force of doing your thing all the time, because then you are kind of in a joy state, flow state, gratitude, because you are doing your thing, and nobody can take that away from you. But for many years also, I was living a lifestyle, or I was trying to make other people, please other people. And that gave me unsatisfaction, because you can never please 7 billion people in this world. There's always going to be somebody who's not going to be pleased by what you're doing. So rather just do what you want to do and find the happiness there without harming anybody.
What was the breaking point for you that shifted you out of following the regular pattern that everybody is following in society and stepping out and doing your own thing?
No, I think I was always very rebellious. You know, the loud guy in school. I didn't want to do homework. I just went through school, something like that. I remember there was a situation. I went on a holiday in Mallorca, on a small island next to Ibiza. And I saw these guys working on the beach, selling tickets for the parties and so on. And they were really cool dudes. And they knew a lot of languages. They were making a lot of cash, you know. They were having all the girls. They were free. They were spending all summer on the beach. And I saw these guys, and they seemed very happy to me. And then I saw most of the people who were going to university, or I was about to go to university, so unhappy, you know, in their jobs and these careers and everything. And I was like, I can go left, I can go right now. I think I just go left, where these guys went, to do my thing, to find happiness, not in an academic adventure, but more in life. So I feel that was kind of a trigger moment, because for the first time in my life, I could see with my own eyes. I had not met billionaires, millionaires by then. I've never been in a place where I was exposed to very rebellious people, normal society. But there, I would get out of my comfort zone. I left my country for a holiday, and I saw these rebellious guys doing their thing. They were 3-4 years older than me, and I was like, wow, there is a path that is different. So for me, seeing that physically showed me that it's possible.
Wow. And what did it cost you to follow that path? Or what does it cost you to continue to follow it?
I had to sacrifice what I had, the construct of life that I had. I was living with my friends in my city, my parents close. I had my first car that I sold for $3,000, be able to go to Ibiza to finance my first month. That, you know, when you're 18, 19, is everything you own is your car. Everything happens in that car. You live, you sleep, you do. And most of all, I had to have faith. That at that time, I didn't know that it's God or whatever. I didn't have a word for that. I just had faith that there will be something waiting for me on the other side. People were like, yeah, but what happens if the job, you don't like it and you already sold your car and you're coming back? I'm like, I have no idea. I just go and things will unfold. And if not, I come back, I will be at the same starting point where I was before. I wouldn't go backwards, just minus a car. So I had nothing to lose.
I think that's what it takes for some people sometimes, is to hit some level of rock bottom. I've spoke about on the podcast my rock bottom that I hit, and it was at the time really, really painful. And then I think there's these moments of catalysts where when you have nothing going for you, there's a lot of freedom in that in a lot of ways. It's like, why keep seeking the same path that isn't fulfilling. Like, why keep working the job that sucks if you want to, like, if you hate your life and you're not fulfilled, like, you really have nothing to lose other than the fear of stepping into the uncertainty and just doing something unconventional, doing something that people told you can't do.
If you look at the world, everything around us, these cameras, these lights, the microphone, the car you were driving, everything was created by a rebellious person. Because they thought, okay, how can we make this different so that it works better?
Yeah.
So anything that we are using or that we are exposed to was created by such a mastermind. So it means that there's a path that this success is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that someone has to invent something to be rebellious. It's like, you can be rebellious by just doing something different than your family thinks you should do, but it's what your heart is calling you to do.
Yes.
You know, in my case, I was on the path to being a doctor, a priest, or a financial advisor. Like, that was what my family does. And I love that for them. Like, that's their path, and it's really beautiful. But I wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I didn't want to be that. And I tried it anyways. And in doing it, I was really unfulfilled. And then there was a bunch of years where I had to just fuck around and, like, figure it out. And I think that's the other thing that I'd be curious to talk to you about is, like, when you step out on the path of uncertainty, that's kind of the point, is you're going into the unknown. So to think that you're going to have an answer by just doing that, you're setting yourself up for failure, in my perspective. It's when you just go at it without any attachment and allow things to happen, allow whatever's meant to come, and allow yourself to fail at that path a lot. I don't know about you, but I've had like 10 failures in my entrepreneurial career. Like, I have failed at so many businesses, it's outrageous. But the fulfillment of not having a boss and the fulfillment of being able to come to Tulum whenever the fuck I want and film a podcast with a dear friend of mine just on a whim, that is so worth all of the failures. That's worth all of the heartache. That's worth all of the challenge. And the challenge also has been an amazing catalyst to help me grow into a really, really potent version of myself. Because the more I lean in on the challenge, the more no one can really tell me what to do anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And it takes being able to just take some beatings for the first few years while you figure your shit out.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm still having it.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a very big failure. I had very big failures in the last years. I mean, I'm not in the... I learned a lot in the last few years. I had big step backs, financial and other personal things. So I see that failures are part of the journey. But looking back, talking to you, like, wow, where I started and what then happened and how the jumps are always bigger, it makes me have confidence and faith that this time is going to be the same because I just have more experience and more worldview. So why should I not do better if I know more than before and before I already accomplished something?
Yeah.
It's just widening the perspective and getting even more knowledge.
Absolutely. And there's also a level of becoming friends with failure and becoming friends with suffering in a lot of ways, or becoming friends with pain. Because when you aren't trying, like, when it's not about reaching the end point, whether that's a ton of money or the beautiful women or all these kinds of like external goals that guys set or people set in general, you know, the family, the perfect family, or whatever the external goal is, there's a very deep intimacy and depth with life that comes from starting to enjoy and love the shit, starting to learn to love the fuck ups and the fuckery and the tension of life. And one of the things that you and I talk about and have learned through the work that we do is around this concept called holding the tension. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes holding the tension is really painful because even in sex, you know, like it can be painful to hold tension during sex.
Yeah.
When you want to like orgasm, you're like,
You want to eject.
yeah, you want to get out. The thought of the end goal is so exciting that it's and in reality, if you can hold it and prolong it and stretch it and enjoy it way, way more, there's so many more doors that open up. There's so much more to experience. Life becomes much deeper. It's more of a dance. And you start to, you know where I'm going with this? Like,
Yes, of course.
yeah, pick it up. See, like,
Figure it home.
yeah.
Yeah, the holding the tension sometimes is just you want to have things now.
Yeah.
You want the kick now, the dopamine or whatever.
Yeah.
And to be able to see that even if it takes longer, even if it's right now you would love to have it and see the results, that it just needs to be in the oven a little bit longer to be perfect. And that's something I'm experiencing as well.
Yeah.
Like things are taking longer than I thought. Some things that I want to figure out about my life, I have not figured out yet. But I have the faith that it's taking longer because it's in a maturity process.
For sure.
And in sex and so on, we learn it. Like I used to be somebody who also was looking for the orgasm. And now I realized some year ago that it's the beauty lays in the act itself, not in the 5 seconds of heaven. Yeah. The heaven is before.
Yeah. And the heaven can be the whole experience, not just the end.
Exactly.
And I think that's what we're really speaking to. So I'm curious if you're open to sharing very vulnerably, it's up to you, you don't have to, on the tension that you're experiencing right now. Like what's the tension for you in your life at this point?
Yeah. So after like a very big financial breakdown and a company that I co-founded went bust, let's say so. I've been kind of looking for my new business venture. I have some things that I really enjoy to do and I love to do, but I have not really figured out yet how to monetize it, my talents and my ideas. So since like a year, I've been kind of like figuring it out and seeing and trying things and not really seeing big financial results. Yeah. So I'm holding the tension on that to see like, okay, what is the next thing that I'm going to upgrade my lifestyle again? Yeah. I'm going to go to the next step that I wanted to go. And so there's been this dance with me and this tension to see like how much comfortable am I in that situation. And knowing what we know through the men's work has helped me a lot to be like more calm and to be more trusting, like, okay, it's taking a bit longer than I thought. And everybody seems to be 1 or 2 laps ahead, having their shit figured out. And I'm like there, I feel like 20 again in my mind somehow. But I have faith that something magical will happen and that suddenly everything unfolds and it made sense.
What are the gifts that you are receiving right now from holding the tension? Like the challenges that you're experiencing right now, what's the blessing of them that you are experiencing even though you were still in it? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a potent question, right? It's like, the
blessings in the challenges that I'm facing right now are definitely humbling.
Yeah.
I've been humbled a lot. Maybe moments I was not humble. It's also reestablishing the relationship to me, to my own trust in myself, nothing external, not even God, divine. Yeah. Okay, who am I? What abilities do I have to get myself out of it hole and to build again from scratch, where you never build from scratch. You always have a starting point somewhere else. And I'm seeing, and this is something important, is who are the real friends and the family around me. Because along the lifespan, you meet so many people who are your friends or whatever. But then you realize really, okay, who's there you in the worst moments? And that has been a blessing. Like friends I could call up and like, hey, I need something, or can you help me with that? That has been beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I am grateful you answered the question, because it's one of those questions that sometimes can be triggering. It's like, hey, you're in the shit. What's the gift of it?
Yeah.
And I found in my own life that when I try to find the gift of like the shit, that's when it turns for me. That's when I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. And the moment that happens, it's like you can be grateful for it. And I have this strong belief that the moment I'm grateful for any of the suffering I'm experiencing,
Yeah.
that's when I've learned the lesson. And then I don't need to learn that lesson anymore. And I've been going through that myself. Like the thing I've been holding attention on and haven't shared is I've been dealing with some digestive like health stuff really strong. And it's been scary at a 10. And I know I've shared it with you, but I haven't shared it on the podcast. And it was like without going into graphic detail of what was happening, my digestion just wasn't moving at all for like a month, and like really strong pain that was like, oh, if you go on the internet, it was like, you need to go to the emergency room and get it checked out. And there were moments where I was feeling scared at a 10 that I was going to die. And I was holding the tension with it because I've got this relationship with God, with life right now and myself. And I'm like, I'm so all in on what I'm doing. And I'm so committed to the path that I'm on. I'm like, if I'm going to be taken out, it's none of my business. Like that's God's will. And because of that, it has allowed me to build a faith and a trust in myself that is like really, really fucking incredible. And it's allowing me to show up in my relationship and in my friendships and in my work in ways that I didn't think were possible of me a few years ago. I remember this was like 4 years ago. I called my dad up. I was completely distraught because I had like failed at another business. And I used to have this horrible anxiety to speak on stage. Like it was weird because I would speak on stage, and the more I spoke on stage, the more anxiety I got. It was not less. Like I started great. And then every time I'd speak on stage, I would actually have more anxiety over time. So like my stage fright got worse as opposed to getting better, which is very strange for me intuitively, because I was like, why is this happening? You're supposed to like get better as time goes, not worse. And I called my dad because I was like, I had seen these guys that, you know, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, any of these execs in companies who can go and like talk about a product, and they're just so loose. They're just so chill in front of millions of people, you know? And like Joe Rogan does this podcast live, you know, and like knows that millions of people are tuning in, and he doesn't get to like edit or chop or things like what I'm doing right now. And I'm like, how are these guys so cool? How are they so calm under pressure? I'm like, is that something that you're born with? So I called my dad and asked, I was like, how do these guys do it? And he didn't have a good answer. He was like, I don't know. If you ever find the answer, I'd love to hear it. And what I'm finding for myself is the answer is this holding the tension. It's not trying to fix the thing that doesn't feel good. And I've been going really deep with this with my partner, because we're realizing that the version of ourselves that is way more successful, that version isn't trying to find how to solve fear or trying to solve anxiety, because that's such a waste of energy. That version of me is just going like if I'm struggling or suffering with something, that version of me is like, easy, I got it, no problem, because I'm doing something more. I've got bigger fish to fry, so to speak. So I don't make this thing of where I'm at, this story or this negative feeling, mean more than just, oh, that's what is present right now. And that has only come from holding the tension, because it's like the more I can sit with feelings, like whatever my body is feeling, whether it's the pain from my stomach or anxiety being on stage, I just allow that to be now. And I hold the tension with it without trying to fix it, especially not with medications or drugs or distractions. Holy shit, it is just giving me a level of confidence that I feel like I'm starting to step into those guys that I was emulating. And I was like, how are they doing it? They're holding the tension. That's what it is. Like when Elon Musk goes on an interview and people are just trying to fucking knock him down in any way he can. He's not like getting scared. He's not, but he's also not taking interviews. He's like, he's going to get on. And it's a skill. It's something that comes from just doing it. And oftentimes I know in my past, I let the feeling tell me that I wasn't supposed to do it.
Mm.
And the only way to get through that was to either try to numb the feeling by whatever means possible, or to hold the tension with the feeling. I would love to take this a whole different direction now. My experience of you is that you are a rebel in the field of relationships as well. How, for you, does this concept of holding the tension relate to relationships?
I would say that when you have your own way of relating, like I have, sometimes you don't get the same results as others.
Yeah.
You get different results, or it takes longer until you can go where you want to go with it.
Yeah.
Because it's off the beaten track. So you need to hold attention there to this, to relating until you feel comfortable in it. Because at the beginning, you will get a lot of backlash from people or from society in general because you're relating in a different way. So it's gonna feel uncomfortable. The best thing is just to hold the tension and keep on going and saying, I got this, I know where I'm going, and you just do your thing. So that's, I would say, how it relates.
Yeah, I would agree completely, because in my relationship, holding the tension has been a central pillar of it. And the more I am willing to hold the tension in the relationship during fights, or during like when my partner's expressing, or when I'm feeling uncomfortable or wanting to eject because one of my wounds is getting hit really hard, it allows me to just not react. It's like respond instead of react. Mm-hmm. And in that response, as opposed to a reaction, like when I can like hold and then make a choice, as opposed to letting the tension decide, or letting the uncomfortable thing decide what my reaction is going to be, there's a deepening. There's like a new experience that I get to have. And instead of replaying the pattern over and over again, I get to see it in a new way. I get to learn something about myself. I get to learn something about the other person. And I would love to open up the field of relationships with you, because you and I are in different dynamics when it comes to relationships. So I would love to let you speak on whatever you feel comfortable talking about how you view relationships and what type of dynamics you are exploring at this time.
Mm-hmm. So at the moment, I'm exploring the open relating. Yeah. I follow a concept called lovership, which is lover and friendship. Because often we have either a partner, a lover, or that we deeply care of, that we have intimate time with, that we are super connected, that we want to share our life with, let's say so. And then we have friends that we respect, that we spend time with, but we don't spend intimacy, right? Yeah. That kind of intimacy, physical intimacy. And sometimes what happens is that these worlds cannot meet, because sometimes you break up with the girlfriend or whatever, and then everything just dissolves from one day to another. You don't see each other anymore, you don't even call, not for birthday, you don't know even if your ex-partner is alive sometimes, right? Yeah. So I follow the concept of lovership, which means that I have people around me in different continents, different countries, because also I travel and I move, that I care about. I deeply care about them. I don't need to call them every day, just like friends. I care that they are good, that they have everything they need. They can always call me up and I would give them my advice or my help if I can. Yeah. And I'm always happy to see them and spend time together, because they're just great people. And but I also can relate to them in a sexual or intimate way, because there is attraction and we feel like this connection together.
Yeah. So is it fair to call it poly, or is it something different?
Yeah, I mean, it's poly maybe is another word for that. Where for me, poly is more that you are in love or in a relationship with more people.
I see.
In this case, you don't need to be in a container relationship.
Yeah.
You can have a certain relation to each other, but it doesn't have to be a ship. It's more relation C.
I'm totally following. And what I'm curious about is, what would you say to somebody who would just call you a fuckboy, or like would look at that and be like, oh, you just want sex and that's it?
That's this person's perspective. Because if I just wanted sex, I would not try to relate. I would be on Tinder probably all day. I would go to places like swinger parties or prostitutes, because that's probably the fastest, easiest way to get sex. And in the end, you spend the same.
Yeah.
If you spend $50 for prostitute, or if you go for dinner and you talk and you make it adventurous, you spend more. So if this was the only reason, yeah, I could understand it. But for me, it's really about the relationship with the people. I care about the people. For me, it's like I want to spend time with them and be like creating experiences together.
Yeah.
I have like these events that I curate, or these weekends, or we go for a trip. But instead of like that, we are on a trip and then there's like these couples, we're like all kind of open, and things happen.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not just about the 1 hour act of sex. For me, it's more about the whole relationship there is there, without it have to be in a container.
Yeah. The way I view you is a very, very loving, connected, heart-centered human being. And so it's something that I imagine people have a hard time wrapping their head around when they see a man who just relates to a lot of different women, or different partners, I'll say, relates to a lot of different partners. And what I'm hearing you share is that there's still a level of intimacy that's being created. It's not about the sex per se. It's about the relationship, but it's not a committed relationship that you're forming. What has led you to live this type of lifestyle?
So since I can remember, I was always very open-minded. I had girlfriends. Some broke my heart. Some I broke their heart. But at some point, I realized that I love many women, or that I can love many women, and that I don't feel only attracted to one. I guess it happens to almost every human being. And I was like, why do I have to make the choice to be only with one if I can in some way be with more than one?
Yeah.
So, and do it in a loving way. And I've been in relationships, and I realized that it was not what I wanted. I felt it was kind of not the freedom that I wanted to experience. So since then, I've been trying to build this, I call it community of lovers, of people that know each other, that is very fluid. You don't have to, there's no rules, let's say so. It's just like based on radical honesty, respect, that you can relate to people that even we know each other, and we can relate to other people that we know without having to have a certain container established. I just realized that it goes more with my kind of understanding about life and the way I live, the traveling, the commitments. I have a son, the business, my self-development. I want to be more broad and not be so centered in something. And that has helped me to do that. That wherever I go, I can establish my loverships, and I can feel and I can experience it without feeling guilty.
I want to talk about creating safe containers with you, because even when it comes to the play parties that I know that you throw and the containers that you hold, I imagine you create very safe containers. And I also imagine that in the field of lovership, you have to create some sort of safe container, because other than that, you can really hurt a woman's heart if she's opening the field of love, but then there is no relationship container to hold her in that. And I'm curious, like, what's your perspective or belief on that?
I once a man, and we both know this man, introduced me to a concept, and it changed everything in my life. And this concept is called radical honesty.
I know the man you're talking about.
It's the best concept on earth.
Yeah.
It helped me so much understanding that if you're honest about what you want, what you don't want, what are your intentions, what is your lifestyle, there's almost the possibility of hurting someone is very minimized.
Well,
because this person, if this person is conscious and takes responsibility for their acts, knows where they're going into.
there it is. I'm wondering if there's a little bit of a societal thing that it's like, it's the man's job to, oh, fuck. Here's the thing I've been scared to talk about. It's the man's job to create all the safety. And I think that actually is a very disempowering thing for women, because it speaks to them not having the ability to create safety for themselves, whether that's putting themselves in safe situations or having the ability to choose for themselves what they want. What is, in your perspective, what is a man, or we'll say the masculine's role in creating, like what's his job in creating a safe container? What's his duty?
So in my opinion, the man's job to create a safe container starts with setting the parameters of how he wants to relate, right? That's, there has not to be a certain way.
Yeah.
It's just he has to say, this is how I'm open to relate at the moment.
Yeah.
So the woman knows in which field she can move. Both people have the responsibility to check in with the other person where they're at. So if a man is not honest about his intention, what he wants, and who he is, then he's not giving full transparency, and then there is no clarity in their relationship.
Yeah.
So that's why honesty is so important for that container. That container can be, I mean, we have so many different containers in this world. We only know a few, like the monogamous, non-monogamous, committed, non-committed. There's like thousands of different possibilities, but you have to choose one. Just the easiest that we know is the monogamous, and everybody thinks that when you're in a relationship, it has to be monogamous. But no, there's so many different ways of relating. But always comes down to radical honesty.
It's honesty. I think as we're talking, it's like I finally have a tangible definition to what a fuckboy really is. And it's really just a man who is not honest about his intentions up front. He's manipulating through trying to pretend to want something different than he actually wants. And not being truthful right out the gate, and allowing the woman to choose for herself what she wants.
Exactly. That's exactly my experience. I was like that as well.
Yeah.
At some point in my life,
I've been like that.
You've been like that. Perfect. Many have been like this. Cheating, lying, pretending, manipulating, you name it, to get what you want. If it was a one stand, if it was the attention, if it was the kick of, I could make her fall in love with me. But you know what this all led to? 99% of the time, drama.
For sure.
I had so much drama in my life with women. And I always was thinking, oh my God, women are crazy. Women are this. They're all drama queens. I realized I was the crazy one.
For sure.
I was creating it. At some point, I was like, just going to be honest about whatever I want to do. And whoever is meant to be and accepts me in my life, they're going to be there. And suddenly, different people are in my life and they love me. They're like, thank you for being so honest. And I'm relating to women that sometimes are looking for a boyfriend. And I'm like, I'm not looking for a girlfriend, but we can still get to know each other. Yeah. And they're happy about it because they can choose. Yeah. And sometimes they feel like also saying, hey, I feel adventurous, or I feel like I want to relate at the moment, even though if it's not, I know there's not the end destination, what I'm looking for. Great, let's go. But the radical honesty has to be there. And I experience sometimes men manipulating women to get what they want. And even, I don't want to say laugh about it, but then wondering why women react a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine to the degree we're both having this conversation, we both have done this in our past. It's not something that I'm proud of at all, but I think there's unfortunately there's a natural journey that men go through because there's so much societal pressure to have sex with women. There's like a validation, like you look cool when you're with the pretty woman, or with women in general. It doesn't even have to be the prettiest woman. There's just a level of like,
It's like an asset.
exactly,
Consider it like that.
exactly. And there's got to be a protection mechanism at the end of the day, right? It's like if you view another human being as an asset, you are protecting yourself from connecting with them, because connection's ultimately unsafe. And where would unsafe connection come from? Probably fucking mother wounds is what comes up to me.
That's something I was thinking.
Yeah.
If you are receiving love, attention from women, it means that you're a good boy.
There it is.
If you receive,
There it is. Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's like some Freudian stuff, really, at the base level.
you receive mother love,
Wow.
so it means that you have been a good boy, and that's why mother loves you, and you are being taken care of by her.
You're doing it right.
Yeah, you're doing it right. So if a man is surrounded by women in society, he gets considered as a good man.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, women who are very sensible beings would not be around him.
Yeah, they're good judge of character. So it says something about the man if a good woman's around the man.
And
Which is very true.
And hot women,
Yeah.
then comes the sexuality part.
Yeah.
It's like a hot woman. Even more because they have more choices to the hot women.
Yeah.
So they're even more picky with who they chose.
Yeah.
So it's even valued higher than
Wow. And so because of that, men are worried about their value or perceived value externally. Mm-hmm. And so in order to, this goes into just a podcast I just had with Taylor about how essentially this came down to a fear of being left out of the tribe. Like it's a survival fear at the end of the day. And I imagine there's even a survival fear of procreation
definitely
mixed in there. Like there's got to be a genetic code hardwired in there that you've got to recreate yourself or you have no legacy.
Exactly. So you want to be good with women,
Yeah.
so that your sperm can be seeded somewhere and grow.
I think that's the like real base unconscious layer of it. But then the whole like the manipulation aspect of it also just comes from like at some point because of that status symbol, it has become okay by some men's parameters to manipulate women or to objectify women. And oftentimes that permission even comes from the media or comes from pornography or comes from a lot of sources that we see being told to us. A relationship dynamic is being played out like, I don't know, what was it? The BDSM billionaire book that so many women loved.
Gray.
Yeah.
50
Shades of Gray. It's like when you see something like that, it says a lot of messages to men and not good ones in my perspective. And so men are trying to live up to a false ideal. And at some point they cannot live up to that false ideal. And then when they cannot, they resort to a bunch of shadow shit because they don't have the resources to figure out how to live up to this unattainable ideal for themselves. Or even if it's attainable, it's not attainable in the present moment. And they feel like they need it right now. And because of that, it's not excusable at all. I think the purpose of this podcast in a lot of ways for me is to start to shine light on these things, to not condone them, but to be like, okay, now we can see what's happening here. And because we can see what's happening here, we can start to address the root of it and say okay, what does a man need to do in order, and I believe you're a beautiful representation of a healthy man that isn't in a committed relationship. A lot of men aren't ready for a committed relationship, but there's still healthy ways to relate to women.
Exactly. And that's, I want to jump in there because you asked me about, is it just about the sex?
Yeah.
If it was just about that, then you would just look for the gratification in just having that act and have that. But how I see it is, in the society, you want to have certain things that people look up to, respect you, right? So if you're relating in a way that people say, hey, he's a nice guy, he's relatable, even if he's not in a relationship, but you accept it in the society.
Yeah.
But if you're just somebody who is just having a lot of sex, there's no status there, right?
Yeah.
So we are looking for the connection, even if not in relationships, because it makes us acceptable in the society.
Yeah. Well, and at a fundamental level, when someone's just chasing sex, they're missing the true value of relating with another human being. Like, it's just purely the pleasure. It's just a drug at that point. And it's so unfulfilling that you can consider it very similar to a cocaine addiction or heroin. It's like
you're chasing the high.
You're chasing the high, and the high will get harder to attain in that game and become more and more unfulfilling as you go, because we are social beings at the core, and connection is actually true safety at a like genetic level. Connection's also where we get to see ourselves, because we can't really see ourselves unless we're in the mirror of relating. Like, having this conversation with you is allowing me to learn things about me that I wouldn't have been able to see. Like, oh, when I talk about this is what I actually believe. I didn't know that because I didn't have another person to talk about it with, you know? Or, oh, I see this aspect of Manu that I really admire. Oh, well, maybe I have that, you know? These types of things. And so when men are just chasing sex, they are missing a really, like, probably the biggest benefit of sex, you know? Like, the sex is the cherry on top of the actual gift. Yeah.
Is the gift for being a good boy, you know?
Yeah.
Because I believe that if I realize and I find out that when you are good to women, if you take care of them, if you're respectful, if you're loving, even if you're not their partner, they will open up in many ways.
Yeah.
Whether it's physically, emotionally, personally, they will literally like open up for you like a portal.
Yeah.
So it's actually the gift of listening, of being present, of being correct, of being honest. So sex should be like the reward for these things.
For sure. And I imagine like us speaking about that opening a little bit more and the benefits of it would be really helpful, because I think most men just see the sex as the benefit. And when you use honesty, radical honesty, and share your truth with women, I of course am a huge proponent of radical honesty myself, and it's what helped open the pathway for me to have my partner now, because I was very direct about who I was. And when I was, whether you're looking for lovership in your case, or you're looking for the one, like I was, radical honesty is the answer always, because it allows you to speak your truth with the other person and them pick what their truth is. And when you find someone who their truth gels with your truth, it's so awesome. Like, the benefits that can come from that are way bigger than the sex by a lot. And when a woman opens, for me, I don't know if you feel the same way, but that experience is far better than the sex. Like, to feel, I'll speak about my woman, when my woman feels safe to be herself, fully expressed, fully seen in front of me, that is the true fulfillment. That's the like, oh my God, that feels so good, because it relates back to me that I'm a safe man, that I'm a provider, that I'm a protector, that I am who I think I am. I'm in integrity, these types of things. And when we speak our truth, there's no manipulation behind it. We're not trying to like pretend we're something we're not. And when you pretend you're something you're not, and then the person does it, it makes you feel worse, I imagine, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And also what happens with the truth is that we take full responsibility for what we're saying, and we take full responsibility for any consequences.
Yeah.
So if that means that the person turns around and tells you, I'm not going to talk to you again, then you assume that possibility and you're okay with that.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful. That's why in relationships, we should always do it, because we should give the other person the opportunity to know who we really are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we are playing with false cards.
100%. And I think this is a really beautiful place to take this before we close up, is you and I have gotten to experience that with ourselves. You know, like this doesn't apply just to women. This, for me, applies even deeper to men. Like we had an experience where we went deep as brothers, and then a few months ago, you were going through a challenge and you messaged me and I didn't respond back. And I had said to you, I'm your brother. And then I didn't respond. And that hurts, I know. And that was something that we've since been working through to heal. I imagine there's still more healing to do. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. And at the same time, honesty is what allows that to happen, because you spoke to me really when I messaged you after that a few months later, and you were like, hey, I understand that you want to talk and we're friends, but this thing happened and I'm not going to like sweep it under the rug. I'm not going to pretend like I'm okay with it. I'm not going to just be like, no big deal. Let's talk. You're like, this is my truth. My truth is that hurt and we need to rectify that. Mm-hmm. And it was really bold. And you're like, and I don't want to move forward if we don't. And that level of honesty allowed.
I even told you, if you want to book a call, for consultants, you can book a call.
Yeah.
You can put a price on it.
Yeah.
Because you asked me something about crypto.
Yeah, I'll ask you something about crypto. Yeah. And it was really beautiful. It was a very healthy, masculine response. It was very like in your power. And I loved that about it. And it called me out. I was like, yeah, you're right. I was a fucking asshole. I'm sorry. And at the same time, because you spoke your truth, it allowed me to choose what my truth was too. Like, do I actually want a friendship with Manu? Do I want that? Because sometimes we say we're friends with people, but it's just kind of like, you don't want to like, they're like, I don't want to be your friend, you know? Like, I'm like, do I want to be Manu's friend? And when I meditated on it, I was like, yes, I do. So what did that ask of me? Well, I got to be humble myself and apologize and like find the real apology for me and to still be in the space of like gratitude and to know that I see where your boundaries are. I see what's important to you. I see what you need of somebody to be in a relationship with you. And then I get to decide if that aligns for me. Mm-hmm. And it's the same back. I get to do the same with you whenever it comes to my desires. And in that, we can actually have a friendship, because so many men in my life before I started relating this way, I would call them my friend, but I hated how we related. Yeah. I hated it because I was like, this isn't how I want to relate, but he's cool, or I won't have a friend if I don't, or I need to betray myself because I'm scared of losing the friendship or things like that. And then I didn't speak my truth and it left me in a poor relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to communicate what our love language is, also in relationships, non-romantic. If, for example, I want to be in touch or want to be considered if I ask something on a message and I don't get an answer for 3 months, then this is my love language that I want to have that. Yeah. And then you as a friend need to establish if that's for you. Because there's also, I have friends, some that I know since 20 years, they disappear sometimes for 6 months, and you write them a message and then they're like, oh, sorry, I went through my own shit and here I'm back. Because we know each other since 25 years, it's like these long-term friends that are going to be forever. But if it would be somebody new, I would say, look, this is not a friendship for me. Friendship is somebody who is present. And doesn't mean that I have to see you every day, but at least if I reach out, that I hear from you. Otherwise, what's the point of having a friendship? Yeah. It's a tie, it's a string that you have that you could use for something else. Yeah. It still takes energy from you.
Well, and thank you for sharing that. I am one of those friends that I like to just kind of come and go when I please. Mm-hmm. And this interaction with you really allowed me to decide if that's really me in my highest. Is that me in my power? Do I have friendships where I just kind of half show up when I feel like it? You know, like, yeah, we can like connect. And like, I have friends that like, that's how we relate. We'll go a year without talking, then we'll be right back in. And it's like, we never left, hang out for 3 months and then go back out. Yeah. And I'm starting to reevaluate if that's actually a valuable friendship for me or not. And what I'm finding is that I really only want to be friends with men that I can build with. Mm. And if I'm wanting to build, and build doesn't always mean business. It's like something. I'm going to build something. And building something takes commitment. Building something takes accountability. Building something takes availability. And in realizing like my higher version of myself, you standing strong in your power allowed me to elevate my version of myself. It allowed me to say, you know what? I think I can do better. I think, yes, my authentic way of relating is to like, if I don't get your message, I'll get back to you. But that doesn't mean I can't change. And I also get to choose, like, is that how I want to show up in the world? And I was like, no, I want to show up stronger. So you speaking your truth gave me that opportunity.
Yeah. That's very so true, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that's probably a really beautiful place to wrap this up and to just say thank you for being on the podcast. I would love to let you share where can people find you, first of all, and then what's something that is happening in your life that you can direct people towards or that you want people to know about you that's going on?
So people can find me mostly on Instagram. Is one of the only platforms that I'm using.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too complicated with many platforms. So it's the Freedom Rebel, everything together. And if you are interested in as well photography, I do photography. I photograph mostly women nudes because I just believe that it's the most beautiful being on that ever touched the planet Earth, and that the proportions are just perfect. So I want to capture that beauty, and especially natural beauty, because I feel that through social media we have distorted the idea of beauty, especially a lot of like fake and makeup and all these things. So with my art, I want to remember what real beauty really is, to keep it simple. So it's Imagine Cape. And this is where people can find me, reach out for anything. This is what's going on in my life. And stay tuned for more interesting things to come.
Yes. You're a wildly potent man, and I can't wait to see. I know you're cooking stuff. So I'm very grateful. Manu, this podcast has been such a blessing, and especially after, our challenge that we went through. And I'm really grateful to get to talk about it. So thank you for showing up vulnerably and honestly and sharing all of your insights and wisdom. It's been a blessing.
Thank you, for me as well. And I mean, also I learned a lot through that. It's not that I feel like I was better than you or whatever. It's just, I wanted, I also had my learnings, and I know that I've been like this as well with some friends. So it was a really good opportunity for me to learn as well how to be a better friend and a better brother when using that word, and being careful with the usage.
Being careful with that word.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be very intentional with it and say, brother, I love you. It's been an honor. And for all of you, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time on the Hard for Life podcast. Bring it in, brother. It was cool. We hit the flow. I'm really grateful. There were like moments where I was like,